It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast. As yes, we talk your property news, what is happening in the real estate sector across Australia, 7 days a week. Every morning you can wake up to us like this morning, Thursday, December the 12th. And in just a moment, we are taking you to a Brisbane suburb in Queensland. But first, 2024, units overtook houses as the most purchased property types of homes in Sydney, accounting for 45.9% of sales compared to 44.3% for houses. This is the Domain end-of-year wrap-up. Nationally, houses dominated at 63.6% of transactions, highlighting Sydney's unique trend. Domain says the missing middle in the Sydney market was townhouses, making up only 6.6% of sales, contrasting very much to the Perth market, where they had nearly 20% of sales with townhouses. All right, let's go from one state to another. Let's head off to Queensland. And we are going to a suburb. This is a coastal suburb of Sandgate. Never been into Sandgate before, but we've got Jacqui Mckeering from Jim Mckeering Real Estate joining us. And Jacqui, you were telling me off air that your company there, you are a third generation, 75 years going and going strong.
Yes, I'm very proud of that fact. My grandfather started the business in 1946 and he has handed it down to my father and then myself.
So in those three generations, you're the first female that's taken hold of the reins, so to speak.
Yes, very much the leader, although I did have a great aunt who used to boss her brother around a lot in the business.
And what about the makeup of your team there? We talk a lot about females that are in these CEO, principal ownership positions. A lot of them like to employ females. What's your team looking like?
Oh, I'd say that we're very much mixed, half and half. I like the straightforwardness of the men, and the women do take on a lot of pressure and they're very resilient, but the men in the office keep it very jovial and fun.
Now, Sandgate, it is a northern coastal suburb in the city of Brisbane. In the 2021 census, got a population of almost 5,000 people there. Just having a quick snapshot for those that are interested in the median house price. You can get into the market there for about 1.2 million. That growth in the housing market, just having a look at that over the last 12 months to November last month, up 21%, pretty buoyant.
Yes, we have been quite fortunate to maintain that growth at such a high level. However, I wouldn't say it's as easy as it looks. This year we've had a lot of stock and our buyers have thinned out a lot. So we have been doing a lot of auctions to make sure that we use that full 4 weeks to find that perfect buyer.
What is the average so we've got a purchase price there of median 1.2. What is somebody buying for that in terms of land size, your median type of house property?
Well, you don't get much for 1.2 in this area. You will get a renovator, someone who's a house that's going to need work. If you buy in the avenues, which are highly sought after because of the location and proximity to the waterfront and town centre, you're getting probably a 400 block less, maybe with a rundown Queenslander on it. But if you go further up in the back streets of the hills, you might get more bang for buck.
And what about the median unit price? We should look at that. It is revealing, see, that's pretty healthy, isn't it? 745 grand, and the growth over the last 12 months, 29.7%, almost 30%. That's pretty reasonable.
Well, it sounds very impressive, and I would say that's because we don't have many units. We're highly Res A, like our area is Res A, and our unit population, like our dwellings, are very few and far between. So they always produce good numbers, and we have a big disconnect between our elite units. Like I sold one this year for 1.256. That's the highest unit sale in the area. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit. And then you have our 6-packs that are selling for about 600.
All right, so this is a little bit of information with this coastal suburb. Talking to Jacqui Mckeering this morning. We'll come back. We'll talk more about this idyllic little spot after this.
Every week we present so much real estate. Powerful, up-to-date news every morning from 6 a.m. Know your property with us on the Real Estate Podcast. It's time to go back to the Real Estate Vault for this week's property comment.
But it's just mind-boggling, isn't it, to think we've got people who can't afford rent. If they can afford rent, they can't get a rental. We've got first-time buyers who are priced out of the market. We've got upsizers who can't upgrade in the market. There's not enough stock. And then we have this other area where there's probably not that much oxygen, and they've got people buying houses for over $80 million. Now, these buyers clearly are not impacted by interest rate rises. And it's just extraordinary, the breadth, I suppose, of the Australian property market, of just how far we've come, for better or worse, that we have just such a huge sort of chasm between either end of the spectrum.
From interest rates rising, a shifting landscape, rentals running hot, clearance rates, a tight rental market, we cover it all every morning from 6 a.m. on the Real Estate Breakfast.
And right now it is time for another 30-second property tip. This time we go to Sean in Double Bay. And Sean, what have you got for us this morning?
Look, I think for buyers considering a property, particularly if it's an area they're not so familiar with, go and check it out outside the scheduled viewing time. So rather than just sticking to those scheduled slots, get down there in the evening or early in the morning, sit around in your car. You can sort of stake it out a bit, and certainly the walkability. So, if it's advertised as walking to the village and shops and transport, get out there and walk it all out. And I think you just need to get a real full experience of the property, the location, and all it has to offer. And by that, I think you really should get there outside the viewing hours to get the full experience.
We talk to some of the most influential figures in the real estate industry, from leading commentators to investors to real estate principals, only on the Real Estate Podcast.
And it is a Real Estate Thursday, and we are in the suburb of Sandgate talking to Jacqui Mckeering. She's in charge, third generation from Jim Mckeering Real Estate there. So perhaps just tell us how your 2024 year has been there for what has been a bit of an upsy-downsy sort of a year.
Yes, you are right there. It has been a bit of an upsy-downsy sort of year, especially with the state election put into what is normally our most promising spring market. Buyers have really thinned out. And I would say that's a bit of hesitancy with the uncertainty that comes with a state election. And also our stock is higher than usual, than the first part of the year. So it has been a bit more difficult to snatch that number one buyer. We have been auctioning a lot. We have used the full 4 to 5 weeks even campaigns to find that one and only buyer. We may have only one registered bidder. So that's been the challenging part for the end of the year. Compared to the first part of the year, I really like that January season. There's not a lot of stock on the market in January. We like to launch our properties then and get them away ahead of the game.
So let's just come back to the state election, because buyer confidence is down at a time you were saying that at this time of the season, normally it's a lot more buoyant, and you were saying that the confidence is down as a result of the state election.
It always has, and it's always been something in history that my father had always said, any election has an impact on the housing market, and I've seen that throughout my years.
Anything in terms of the 2024 year that really stands out as a highlight there in your market?
The highlight would be the confidence in buyers buying at auction. Traditionally, pre-COVID, we didn't do a lot of auctions. Now, majority of my sales are through auction campaigns, and that's helping us manage days on market to be less and making sure that we're not overpricing houses, because there has been a lot of seller confidence in trying to overprice their houses and not meeting the market since 2022. So it's really brought buyer and sellers together to achieve a handsome result.
And tell us how you are feeling heading into 2025, the first quarter. I don't think we're going to see those interest rates move downward. Might be a few more months after that, but how confident are you for the start of next year?
Well, I'm full of confidence for January and kick-starting the year. I probably am a little bit less confident once we get that federal election coming about, but by then you might even see some interest rate drops closer to mid to end of year when that is all news headlines.
All right, give us something to look forward to. Make a prediction if you can. Have you got anything that you can say, this is what I think is going to happen in the marketplace for 2025?
My prediction is interest rate cut maybe on the agenda around May, and I think the federal election will be called for August, September.
All right, Jacqui Mckeering, you have yourself a great Thursday. Thank you for coming on and explaining to us a little bit about Sandgate, a northern coastal suburb there in Brisbane, population of about 5,000 people.
Thank you very much, Craig.
From first-time home buyers to seasoned investors to breaking property news, discover the stories behind the real estate.
Have you had anybody that have said to you, look, Dominic, I want something that's kind of like a Downton Abbey?
Yes, I do, but they're quite rare. The very grand ones, like your 30, 40-room houses. The problem is sometimes they do come on the market, but they come with, they might come with 1, 2, 5,000 acres, which prohibits the person that wants the house. That's the problem. Whereas most people that want the house, they're really after your 20, 50 acre gardens or allotments.
In Downton Abbey, they've got the pulley, the strings where they ring the bell, and there's a central area where those bells go off. Are there any properties in Australia that have got that sort of system?
Yeah, the servants' bells. I do come into historic houses where they're very intact and things like servants' bells are still there. You don't see a lot of it, but, there are very intact original houses that I walk into.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.